First of all, thank you all the panel. I know when I'm talking to you guys from last 10 days, I think you guys, happily actually kind of accepted my invite to be part of this session. And largely, I think it's a conversational discussions kind of a thing, right? And we have done first session with talent management leaders about a month back, and from a startup background and a services technology background workforce. And then the time when we did that last time, it's kind of situation is not this worse the way it is happening, and everybody's in a mood of don't know what is going to happen next 2-3 months, not sure about it. And then while that's all kind of happening, I think banking sector looks like seem to be continue to be extremely aggressive, especially in India, Rama. And looks like they continue to look for talent and then continue to actually come up with new trends and new models in the industry. Thought, okay, let's actually have a little bit of conversation which helps people around in the industry to know about what's happening, right? Maybe to start with, Geetanjali, I think, introduce yourself and then maybe give a little bit brief about what's happening in your own bank and, generic talent management stuff.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out for the webinar today. And just a quick introduction about me. I work for RBS currently, and I manage the Chennai site. I have been in the tea industry for the last 15 years and having worked through with various other organizations. I have worked with Bank of America, with Verizon in the past, but the last 7 years have been precisely on the banking industry. And this is the first time that we are seeing any crisis like such, happening on the COVID front. So banking sector, in my opinion, is getting more competitive and open than ever. The COVID crisis is teaching the banks particularly that how to really stay committed to your customers, dealing with the impacts, becoming more stronger, and framing more trust-based relationships. If you look at some of the top UK banks, because I think I would have a perspective towards UK a bit more, is that banks have started to support their customers in multiple ways, which is, some of the options like mortgage, holidays, refinancing, increase in the cashless payments, access to the fixed deposits, savings accounts for the customers, right? Helping in each and every way that they can succeed. Okay. Now, in my opinion, I think the crisis is likely to have a significant effects on how the payment industry is going to evolve and reinvest in the innovation proposition from here on. In a nutshell, if you look at it, the digital payments have spiked up, but there has been constantly a decline in the cash transactions that happen. So in my opinion, I think, the skills like payments, digital, trade finance, data security, fraud detection, cybersecurity, data science will definitely be on the rise. And there will be, of course, the new use cases coming up for blockchain, cryptocurrencies as well. If you look at it, the China is accelerating already the launch of the central bank digital currency in the wake of COVID-19. Now, when it comes to hiring particularly, I think recruitment has already adopted a philosophy of social distancing, which means that, a lot of our transactions that we do with respect to the different stages of hiring, be it, sourcing, interviews, or onboarding, or the assessments, everything has been virtual so far. So I think organizations are really working towards in terms of the talent management to ensure that employees have a good value proposition coming out of it. And so far, most of the firms largely have a good feedback coming out from employees and also from the external candidates who are getting hired, because overall it has really reduced the time for us to hire, somewhere expanded our pool as well, because now you can look at different regions, wherein even if you don't have offices, the talent is available to work on certain, it's more of a gig economy also, which is forming up these days.
Right.
So I think it's overall going great for the talent industry, particularly because we're able to target different regions and get the talent faster for the businesses, right? Now, when it comes to the interview particularly, I think one of the trend that we are seeing is that people have to get adapted towards the virtual interviews more, because it's a different ball game altogether. If you have a personal interview, particularly, it makes a lot of sense when you have the non-verbal cues or the body language cues, coming up from the candidate, which apparently is, not so possible, that firmly in the virtual setup. So we are seeing a lot of trend wherein candidates have started to adapt to this, and I think it's really helping the banks to hire the roles faster. Yeah. So I think that would be my take, and Murli, back to you.
Yeah, I think maybe next, maybe Sudhir, you want to just pick up a quick, your comments on talent management.
Apologies, Murli, I dropped off. There was some technical issue, so I missed the question. If you can repeat it for me.
Yeah, so it's just introductory question, and then followed by what's happening in banking, especially when industry is actually kind of slowed down almost like 70-80%, but the banking continue to at least give a helping hand to the industry, right? So just wanted to hear what's exactly happening in your bank, and is that same feeling or anything specific you guys are doing?
Sure, Murli. So I think last 3.5-4 months has been very challenging and very difficult for all of us, not only from the industry point of view, but also from the across the sector. From the talent management point of view, I think it has been a blessing for the way we have been doing our work, the way we have been operating, the way we have been hiring people, the way we have been doing things which were very unorganized. I think this time really helped us out to think through that how do you want to really operate, how do we want to really use the technology to really get the right set of people, and where do you want to really target, how can we bring more technology intervention to reach out to the candidate in the deeper pocket, because we being an Indian bank, and we are spread across the length and the breadth of the country, and wherever the RBI gives us a branch license, we have to open into those remotest part of the country, and we don't have a choice, and we will. So technology is really helping us out in really zeroing in those locations, in also making sure that we get the right talent. Initially, it was a little challenging for the first 4 to 6 weeks, but I think we regrouped. We looked at various technologies, and I think it is really helping us out in penetrating deep into the market, reaching out to the candidates, and also giving them experiences which most of the Indian banks have not given them. Because from the technology point of view, most of the banks are Indian banks, but I'm not referring to the MNC banks. They have really shied away from the using of technology pertaining to hiring. But I think this time has really given us an opportunity to really look at various tools and means to get the right candidate, and also meet the talent pool which we would have never explored. The market wise, I think during the last 3.5 months, we have onboarded close to 1,700 people. So while we speak, I'm going to onboard another 200 management trainees joining in the first week of August. So there is a little slow from the hiring point of view, but I think we will be again back into the hiring business in next week or 10 days time. So I would not say that nothing has changed, but yes, it has given us some breathing space to relook at the entire activity, the way we have been operating, the way we have been targeting the talent, and the way we have been approaching them.
Okay, fantastic. Krishma, you want to quickly introduce and then take the forward?
Sure. Thank you, Murli. So this is Krishma. Pretty much entire career in tech world. I have spent about last 12 years with IBM, especially in analytics space. So that makes me a little different from others in terms of uh, knowing the banking sector very deeply. It's just about year and a half since I have joined the captive group. Now, from a talent management perspective, I'll kind of talk in general the difference which I have seen in the tech world, as well as what I have seen in the captive world, and what does it mean to kind of people in the banking sector, and how is this current situation impacting us. So first, I think the good news is that Indian market in terms of talent is growing. It is not really getting impacted negatively because of COVID. Rather, people have started understanding that there's a lot of competency here. We have the advantage of cost arbitrage as well, so that's helping to sort of because everybody across the world, especially the MNC companies, they are looking to optimize their costs, and a big section is to get that talent recruited in India, which is competitive as well as kind of okay with the cost kind of thing, right? So that's one thing. Second thing, which I think is kind of changing, is how we look at employees. Earlier, what I saw is that especially in tech industry and more in captive actually, where people used to look at employees like people, a piece of a piece a person with hands and legs and doing some work and going home, right? Not really having a heart or a brain or the aspirations or anything to grow. Now that has changed lately. Every company has realized that human resource is the most important resource which any company can actually leverage on to grow. And the times have changed that way. Companies want to build trust with employees. Companies want to take care of the aspirations of an employee, not really focusing on the task at hand, but more about how do I retain this guy, how do I really make this person um, part of me, part of this company, help the company grow. So many of these changes which I have been seeing across the industry in past 20 years have been very, very encouraging, especially around the diversity front, where not only the gender diversity, but also differently abled people.
Correct.
The industry has been responding very, 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 very nicely, where I have in my team a guy who is suffering from a rare genetic disease where he cannot see well.
Okay.
The bright lights, he can't really work with that, and we have arranged an entire environment for him to work. He's an exceptional guy coming over from an IIT Delhi, and very, very talented person, and we have created an entire environment. We have got him a different kind of laptop, a different kind of keyboard, the bringing down the lights and blinds where he sits so that the light is less. So what I'm saying is that the companies are kind of looking at going in that extra mile to appreciate the talent, to kind of incorporate some good talented people inside the environment and changing themselves to accommodate the people.
Correct.
So that's probably my take in general, Murli.
Correct. Correct. I think
Back to you.
it's good points. Actually, you kind of connected on the technology piece of it. So Param, I think you want to pick up quickly, introduce, and then talk about you especially coming from campus hiring leader for Standard Chartered Bank, right? So specific inputs on that.
Sure, thanks, Murli. So, guys, just to quickly introduce myself, so working with the industry for close to 16 years now, and manage campus, off campus, me to senior hiring and leadership hiring as well. Presently working with Standard Chartered, and before Standard Chartered work with JP Morgan, Bank of America, Fidelity, ANZ Bank. So these are banking firms I worked with. Unlike earlier, so I think I have never seen the word outside of banking word. So I only worked in banking and financial companies. Excuse me. So so I think I have seen the 2008 financial crisis as well. That was the time when I joined Bank of America. And so now when I'm with Standard Chartered, so that's again another crisis that come up. But I think if you look at that, this is far worse as compared to 2008. But I think the only one thing which I realized, I think in 2008 we were not having such a great tools and technology which we have it now.
Correct.
I think we were not having Zoom even by then. So now we are having during the COVID time. So there is no lag in between. Am I interacting with my team or leadership team? So on the videos, are we meeting them regularly or no? So I think there is no lag in between that. That's one. And secondly, even a lot of tools and technology which are coming up and bringing new perspectives, bringing new analytics on the world and day-to-day productivity. So all that which was not really being identified earlier, that those are avenues which we find out now. uh, from I think banking perspective, you look at that till before this COVID started, right? So till then, nobody have thought about that any bank, for that matter, any bank, maybe Indian bank or global bank, have a capacity to work more than 95% from home. I think that's the key. We have it now that so every work can be done from home. I know that a human touch, human relations are equally important, but with the technology, with the Zoom and other video channels, we have that. I don't think like there's any barrier for us now to work from home. So if you ask anybody, can you be productive at home? Can you work from home and give you 100% productivity? Yes, I think most of people can say yes on that line. So having said that, I think even from an early career perspective, from the campus recruiting perspective, there are a lot of things which have been changed so far now, and so a lot of things which we used to do it easy way earlier, that is a tough task now. But that's again a avenue that has given to us. And I think what I take it is, we are the leaders, especially who are running those practices, strategies at this point of time. We are setting up example for rest of the world.
Correct.
I can give you one example. So I have created, there's a one group of around I think 12 to 15 people I have in that particular group, which talks about all the TA leaders who are leading the campus hiring from the different companies, starting from JP Morgan to Goldman Sachs, Citibank. So all that we part of the same group. So when we started talking about that, so we have to run the work, virtual internship. So because we have given that offers to the kids last year in the campuses, how we can run that? That's the only way we have to do it virtually.
Correct.
But it's easy to say virtually, but how to materialize it, right? Starting from infrastructure to giving the good candidate experience, finding out the right projects for them. Because if they are in our organization, we do not have a challenge for the data security. Now somebody is working at home, how to ensure that they are working into the safe and secure environment for us? They should be productive as well. They should be getting a right experience for the organization, because that's a talent pool of the organization. That's the future of that's leader of our futures to whom we are hiring in our organization here. So I think starting from that, having said that, a lot of avenues we have find out wherein we can get a lot of innovation in place, and so we are setting the example for the world.
Fantastic. So I think you touched upon a point which is productivity norms, and then campus talent and all this stuff. And I'll try to move to Rama now. So Rama, while you introducing yourself and give a little brief about what's happening, I want you to also talk about so overall, when a pandemic and this lockdown started 3 months before, I hear from the leaders, oh, the productivity is increased now after people working from home. Looks like slowly it is diminishing, right? Again, it's my view, and with talking to few people, want to understand, is the same feeling you also get from everybody? I just want you to touch upon that point also, Ram.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. And as Murli said, my name is Rama Siva, and I work for US Bank as the head of transformation. Have been in HR for a little over 20 years, and mostly in financial services. I've been with like Param. So I've been with Citi, and after that with Accenture. So I've been both on the consulting side as well as the business side from an experience perspective. Right now, because I'm in the US, I can tell you a couple of things. One, unlike the 2008, 2009, the tide hasn't gone out of all the sectors. It's only a few sectors which are like oil and gas, aviation, hospitality. So if the bank's client portfolio mix is heavily tilted towards some of these sectors, yes, the impacts have been really far more impactful in those banks as compared to the other clients. Like as an example, if your clients are in the Amazon or Google, so technology, retail companies, some of the big retail names, those have not actually impacted. They have actually seen the growth in this phase during COVID. And the differentiating factor really seems to be who has been the early or the first one out of the gate as far as the digital transformation in their own space is concerned. So that's been a big turn. Now coming to the point, this week is big in the US because all the banks are actually declaring their Q2 earnings. So this is the week where all the Q2 earnings are getting declared, and therefore most of them will declare very, very muted results for Q2. And the Feds are also making sure that there is enough capital. So liquidity has to be maintained. They're putting a cap on how much of dividend payout can be done, etc. So it's a really tough environment for the banks here to operate. Coming to the point around work from home, and absolutely, I think COVID, while it has switched everybody's thinking about what can be done and what cannot be done, we are starting to definitely see the adrenaline rush that had happened initially, which was to see that spike in and the almost, I would say, the over enthusiastic adoption to work from home is starting to wear off. We are seeing this in many pockets. The productivity is starting to either slow down or in some cases even taper off. I'll give you an example. We have large operation centers in the US, and we are starting to see, even for the work from home employees as an example, high levels of absenteeism. And you would wonder, why would there be absenteeism if you're working from home? But we are seeing that. We are also starting to see more companies trying to understand what roles are going to be most adaptable to this work from home and what are not. And we are ourselves doing that as a process through all the work that is happening across the bank. As an example, in our commercial banking space, we already know that our relationship managers feed off each other's energy. They need the chitter chatter on the floor. Our trading desk folks are definitely someone who need to be on the floor. So we are starting to identify pockets of these folks who need to be there. And while work can get done through remote Google Hangouts and Zooms and so on, it is really not effective. So we are starting to already see where the collaboration is a must-have, and where it is okay for folks to start doing the work slightly differently. So we are starting to already carve out, and this is a work that's happening across various banks here in the US, starting to carve out the archetypes of work that can be done differently. And therefore, there is, as an outcome of all this, there's a very clear push at this point on, somebody talked about cost arbitrage. So definitely cost pressure is huge. Companies therefore are now evaluating the ratios of compensation cost to revenue as an example. And outsourcing will be a consequence of all of this. There will be a bigger push that will definitely start to happen. Wells Fargo will be announcing their results as well as an example, and they will be moving to a bigger outsourcing model, just as an example out of all the stuff that's going on here right now.
Fantastic. I think great points. I think, especially on the bank's Q2 results is going to actually impact whole economy of the world. Looks like, if something really not coming up well there, I think it's going to have a negative impact in the industry for sure, right? So that's going to happen. So thank you, Rama. I think, Jaideep, I think, and I always keep the best of my friend in the last. So, I wanted you to just start, introduce yourself and then speak about what's happening in Danske Bank.
Sure. Thank you, Murli, for having me here. For the rest of the team, my name is Jaideep. I head the talent acquisition function for Danske Bank. So while everybody spoke about the banking, the region which I represent is a Nordic region, which is purely a trust-based society and largely unchecked by most of the big banks. It is only few banks in the Nordic region who have been operative and then who have been operative for close to 150 years plus. The big challenge that I see or we are seeing as a bank is one, trust is being the I would say the cornerstone for all the banks in the region. Now, slowly we are moving from paperless society to documentation. Also more towards, okay, how about the KYCs and the other, parts of the required documents, which is making sure that, okay, the banks run safely and the bank's money being used safely also. So the technology adoption is on the increasing. Okay. If I want to look at the Danske Bank right now, the Danske Bank is going through a transformation thing.
Mumbai is not penalized for not delivering.
Yeah, go ahead. I think somebody's, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so Danske Bank is going through a middle of a transformation journey, which is moving away from the traditional to an agile, work model. So we would see more of the roles being looked upon from a workforce point of view, and also from a customer point of view, and also from a bank's perspective of whether it makes sense for us to have this role, both from a return on investment as well as from a cost perspective. I spoke about the COVID. We are in the middle of the COVID, and then there is no better time to be part of the transformation. That's what our CEO talks about, and I fully agree, because there is a lot of chaos around the world, and you add your own chaos so that the organization comes out in a better shape and form. So that's one way to look at it. Coming back on the hiring, the fallout of this transformation is you would see a large amount of hiring moving from the traditional country, where the home countries, to the low cost countries thing. So India is getting benefited. So you would see a blockchain, you would see a KYCs, and you would see the latest and the newest technology is going to be part of it, and kind of a thing. So we are hiring, as I said. Now, the second aspect of the employee, so traditionally the organizations are, used to make offices so that the employee spends the maximum time or the second home at office, so that he or she is better, served, right? You have a right table, right chair, and then you have a right desktop and everything. Now this moved back to the working from home. Now the organization is helping us to look at, okay, what is the infra that I should be providing to make sure that my employee productivity is up and running, just like in the office. So there is a tremendous focus on that portion of it also. It not just employees, it also to the outsourcing partner employees, where who he or she is working on a project which is over the spread across the next 12 to 15 months. So that is also the focus that is being spent, Murli. There are many things happening, but yeah, I'll stop it here, and then I'm sure we'll talk again.
I think it's fantastic, Jaideep. So I think we almost like touched all the points which we required to talk about it. And I have a few questions written for all of you. Maybe I'll start with Sudhir, right? Because he's in the industry for longer years and he has worked in all the banks before moving to the Indian bank now, right? So Sudhir, now one is actually like as Geeta mentioned about it, actually the availability of pool is increasing, and now we can hire people from anywhere in India from a locations point of view, because virtual onboarding. Is that any change which you all seeing it in terms of cost of the people, right? While you able to get people, is it a cost reducing, or its cost is going to same? And any specific thoughts on that?
So only when you talk about cost, are you talking about the cost of operations, or are you talking about the cost of the resources which we are going to hire from the market?
Cost of the compensation, if I can put it straight.
So I think, so before I take that question, sorry, I missed introducing myself. So I thought I should do that before I answer that question. So I've got 20 plus years experience only into talent acquisition. So I've seen .com, I've seen 2008 Lehman, and I'm seeing the Corona crisis right now.
Correct.
All the three are very different. I think this one has a deeper impact, and the uncertainty is pretty long. I worked with the banks like JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, and I've been on the Capgemini, which was under captive. And my last assignment before I joined Kotak, I was with Randstad, where I was managing the RPO business. So I've seen these both the sides of the table.
Correct.
Now going back to your question, what you asked, I think the cost will not change if it will not go further up, because what will happen is that the complexity of the resources and the skill what we are going to look into the market is going to increase. So what I was used to hire, let me just take a simple example. When I was hiring a relationship manager, I was looking more of a sales kind of a relationship kind of person. But I think in the current scenario, my expectation from that role will be increased, because I will not be only looking at the sales, I will also look at some of the maybe compliance activity. Can you do all the documentation also? Can you manage some of the backend activity also? So I'll try to force fit maybe a 2 or 3 role into an individual when I'm looking from the hiring point of view. If I go on the technology side, I don't think so I'm going to hire any vanilla skill anymore. I'm going to hire really all those high-end technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, your cloud, and all those things. Now, what will happen is that the people who are there on the street is not the people who we want to hire, and the people who are inside the job will not be looking out for a job, because they will be feeling it's not the right time to really move out for a job, from a job career change point of view, because the market is so unpredictable, and we don't know in which direction we are going to go. And if we go in some organization and things don't go well, I think maybe I will be in the line of fire. So the good guys will stick to their job. The average guys will be floating to the market, which nobody wants to hire. And if I have to go and pick up the best of the guys, obviously I have to pay premium. So I don't think the compensation will go up. My gut feeling is that it might go up. It won't go down, but it will go up in the midterm. Not from the long term point of view. Once it stabilizes and things turn back to normal, obviously the job hopping will continue. But till the time we are in this scenario where we don't know whether this is going to end till Q2, Q3, or Q4 of this year or next year, and till then, I think the situation is going to remain the same. I think the war is going to increase, okay, and the complexity of hiring the role always also going to increase, and the compensation will also go up. Okay. Is my feeling. I may be wrong, but that's what is my gut feeling.
So Jaideep, I think you are the one is another company which is hiring a lot on the tech piece. So are you feeling the same thing in terms of, are you able to get better people for the same cost, or still you paying what typical banks pay in India?
So Murli, we pay maybe 2 percentile more than the other banks, primarily owing to the the brand. So we are not a big brand compared to the JPs or the Stan Charts, right? So we just pay a 2 percentile more than other brands, so that you have a compensation push when any offer is made. At the same time, as Sudhir mentioned, right, the cost of the people is not reduced. At the same time, we are not hiring very generic people. It is a specific. It is a right leveling and being done. Unlike in the past, where a person with the skill is being hired, now you also look at what value that he'll bring if he has a more experience, or what value that he may not bring if he has a less experience also. So it's a lot of questions, checks done before even initiate the conversation also, Murli.
Okay, so basically I think you're getting better people for the cost is not increasing, but at the same time it's not reducing as well. I think it's a fair point. So I'll try to quickly move to Krishma on maybe that can be followed answer by Rama for the same question, right? So Krishma, I think now pandemic situation, everybody is working from home. You being technology leader, managing your teams on productivity, any specific new trends or new methods you as a company, as you as a leader following, anything which is not there pre-COVID?
One One thing which we are looking to follow, Murli, is to kind of onboard the new joiners a little more effectively.
Okay.
What happens is, what I believe is that, the new joiners, they actually gel with the team in corridor talks, in coffee catch ups. That's how they feel part of the team they work with, right? Just work related talks do not really get them to understand the culture of the culture of the industry, and the company as such. So one is this, that we have tried to kind of made a senior leaders group in the company, and we have taken an attempt to arrange, every 15 days or every 2 weeks, say for example, we kind of uh, have a 1 hour town hall kind of story, where we bring in all the new joiners together, and we give an overview of how the company works and what is the bigger picture, to the people, to make them involved. This is kind of one thing which we have been doing. And second thing is, the we have started the concept of daily stand-ups.
Okay.
So what typically used to happen is, people, when they were working in the same environment, in the same block, they used to kind of just shout out and talk and get the stuff done. But now, because that is not happening, so most of these talks have become silo. So every team member would kind of try to list down a 30-minute slot in the leads calendar to get the questions answered, and that brings up a lot of pressure onto the leads to kind of spend so much time just coordinating. So, we thought maybe this concept mandatorily will help the teams to work closer to each other. So it's like 15-20 minutes of stand up, but a daily huddle.
Okay.
So that has been immensely helping. Yeah.
Unlike earlier, yeah, I think it used to be like giving to the the next level leaders to handle it. Now it's becoming like norm for everybody to do it. Right? It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Rama, you want to pick up from there, and any specific things you want to mention?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I want to talk about is about a month or so back, there was a survey done across customers in the US, especially around what their preferences are. And one of the eye-opening facts is that nearly about 24 to 25% of the US customers have said that either they are planning to use branches less or not use them altogether. So, and I wonder how many of us have been to a bank in the last, I don't know how many ever months since COVID began, right? So it's clearly a signal that things are changing from a physical presence perspective. So what has started happening is definitely a shift and prioritization of what are those products that can be quickly put out and enabled digitally for the customers. So that's been one big push that we are starting to see. From that point of view, if you ask me, a couple of things have happened. One, I think the pace of decision making has almost moved 10x. And therefore, the type of talent we need to work in such an environment is also very, very different. As an example, if I talk about PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, which was something that the US government here introduced for those who were rendered unemployed. That was not just meant for the account holders in the bank. It was meant for anyone who could approach a bank, fill out a form, and their loans would be processed and the Paycheck Protection Program would kick in. This is something that is absolutely new, and all the banks sort of scrambled, and what may have taken several months took them perhaps a period of 1 or 2 weeks to actually figure out the whole mechanism of how this large amount of money will be disbursed to the end person that may not even be a customer in some cases. So that has definitely been a big push to saying, how do you deal with ambiguity? How do you work in using technology? How can you be more data savvy, and how can you innovate quickly? I think these are things that are starting to bubble up, and knowing the trend of the customer preference changing now to increasingly being remote, and wanting to do contactless banking. The push has been to really start thinking about how we can structure our own teams. While Agile was earlier a very cool principle in a few areas, now it's starting to spread across, where we are having journey teams within the banks across different groups that are starting to think about how they can come together as one bank to serve the customer.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's a good. I think PPP modeling is anyway. I think it's becoming a very critical and important aspect in the overall world. So Param and Geet, any points on this specifically? I think you guys kind of created new methods or trends after COVID in your banking world.
Yeah, so only one thing I think I would like to talk about is, um, when this pandemic situation arrived, right, and COVID time started, immediately, obviously, any bank or any good organization, right, so they will activate their crisis management people and to ensure that they are meeting regularly and putting some structure, some framework, some safety measures, in place. I think, but so one thing we have thought about, and we started with, so where we are having more connects with the employees. If I talk about from leadership perspective, definitely I think someone already mentioned that, like, daily stand up, which is more of agile methodology. Now we have that daily stand ups, and daily hurdles we are having with the teams, with the leadership team as well, to ensure that we are keeping track of each and every project, and we are delivering on time. But much beyond that, as a leader, right, so CIOs, CEOs of the organization, so they started another good practice of having more town halls, which was used to have it I think once in a quarter, once in 6 months time. Now it's more frequent, one. And secondly, even in Stand Charter, so we are sending a daily digest email which talks about what is happening in Bangalore and Chennai, because these are two primary locations we have in India from GVS Stand Charter perspective. So what are the things happening here, what are the security measures we have that. I think, but for and foremost thing, so as an employee, right, so if I will get infected, what is my next step for me? Because sometimes we are in a situation where we may not be able to think through it.
Correct.
So our leaders, so we have created such a great framework as well for each and every employee. Whenever they are sending those daily digest as well, so some of the daily myers, they are putting it each and every email. So if I get infected maybe after 1 week, I may not remember what I read in last 1 week, 1 week back. So, but so if I have something in my inbox today, I can simply go and click and see what are the first few set of people to whom I need to inform, so that as an organization we can help that particular employee. So I think from this current time perspective, so leadership is more friendly with the organization, with all the employees. At the same time, so there are a lot of learning capabilities, learning tools have come up in the organization, because we may have some additional bandwidth while sitting at home, and we can learn something new and which will help to deliver more efficiently in the long run.
Okay. So what you're saying is actually leaders supposed to be anyway friendly overall earlier, but now it's actually COVID is forcing everybody to be definitely more friendly. No choice now, because it used to be, anyway every leader has to be friendly as a norm, but because of the urgency or their busyness and all the stuff, delegation used to be biggest thing. Now it become a mandatory for everybody. Can I say that?
I may just add one thing here, so I'm not sure, maybe, so most of you would have, read that note, that who is driving the digital piece and innovation in the industry now, right? It was, there are few options: CEO, board of directors, or your technology team, and the option D was COVID.
Right.
So COVID had bring out everything. Those things was earlier there as well, but I think those things are prompt up to ensure that we should really work on the innovation now. They should bring the new ideas, new way of interacting with the people to make, as an organization, more friendly organization, rather just having a one-way communication.
Okay. Okay. So, Geeta, any points on that? On specifically the topic we just mentioned about anything?
Sure. So I think the trust factor has really improved between the teams and the managers and the leadership, because there is a lot of empowerment currently given to the employees to function in a remote setup. Being a bank, I think customer confidentiality and the data security are, two heavily regulated aspects. And banks are, currently making sure that the assurance with respect to all the tools and the techniques that we have available are given to the employees so that they can function appropriately on this. Now, similarly, when it comes to the cyber and the data security perspective, banks are, sort of making sure that there are sufficient checks and balances to ensure that there are, no data leakages, predominantly happening. Particularly when it comes to the VPN security, I think there's a lot of, rework or a remodeling, or just to ensure that we are, pretty safe and secure from a VPN standpoint too, just to not have the internet interfaces to happen at the same time. I think going along the way, if this model will continue in future, I'm sure there would be a lot of emergence of the new tools that will come up, to structure this much better for employees. Yeah.
Correct. So I think, maybe I'll go to Krishma on this specific question, because, market is now people not required to work from office, and then this gig economy, we're talking about it. So, India is going to become the way, the Western countries and Europe and US modeling of people can work for 3 hours, 2 hours, maybe, contract employment and all is increasing. Do you think that that's going to become a norm in India very shortly? Or the second thing is dual employment is still, India is not there, right? We can't do legally. Do you think that dual employment is going to become a norm in India also? So any thoughts on that?
I believe it may come up, but owing to the culture which India has kind of cultivated over the years, I still feel culturally we are a big supporter of permanency in life, right? So while I'm a big supporter of gig economy and people working in those hours when they feel themselves to be productive, I don't really believe in the concept of some of the companies having this 9 hours kind of setup and clocking hours and recording how much people are working and not. So that's that kind of micromanagement is sort of not favorable. People should be allowed to work whenever they wish to work. But I don't know if not promotion of a contractual engagement or working for 2 different companies is going to come over to India soon. I mean, at least there is no buzz around this kind of attitude in the companies, is what I hear. Contractual may still work out because some of the very talented individuals, they like to kind of work on different opportunities and they don't want to get stagnated associating with one brand. That culture is sort of cultivating in a group, especially around the technologies which are more niche. But from a dual employment kind of perspective, I still feel it's a far away kind of story. Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
Murli, one point I picked up on what Krishma spoke about, right?
Sure.
So there are groups which is talking about outcome-based payments, right? So currently we are talking to one firm which is talking about a set of individuals who would work at different hours, and they say that, okay, we'll get you the job done, and this is going to be not on the hourly basis, but you give us the number of hours that is required to deliver and when do you want it. Based on that, we will do a outcome-based delivery that is being happening. And ENY is promoting this organization. There is definitely a kind of push towards outcome-based, and I can work whatever time that I feel that I'm productive on, and kind of a thing.
Good to know, Jaideep. So I think, specific to you, Param, right? So you being a campus leader, I think looks like you continue to hire campus and all the stuff. Now, it's a completely changed. I think, I'm kind of dealing with a lot of colleges now. Everybody's struggling. Even the top institutes, their offers got rolled back. best of the people are joining at as low as you can't even think about, 30% of what they get it, they're okay to join. So any few specific inputs now to the campus workforce from you?
Murli, I think your data points are right because if I can add, so IIT Delhi, more than 35%, and to be really precise, 36.7% offer was pulled out.
Correct.
So the simple reason for that was because, and especially they are the top cream people of that institute.
Correct.
The simple reason for that was because most of the people either they had an offer from a startup from India, or they had some good startups from the European or US side, or they had some of the opportunity which they feel that okay they will start the entrepreneurship just after passing out from IIT Delhi. So now everything is put on hold.
Okay.
So approximately 37% people actually they are really looking for opportunities in the market, and so as I'm heading the early careers here now, so almost daily basis I'm also receiving at least 8 to 10 different profiles, 8 to 10 different people from that they are reaching out to me on the LinkedIn to look for opportunities. At the same time, if you look at from the corporate perspective, right, so we also have strict budgets because the hiring which we have done last year that has already been closed for this year, right? And if I am planning out for my hiring for 2021 now or 2022 for now, right, so I will visit the campuses people who are passing out next year in 21 or 22. I may not be considering the people now at this moment who are just passed out, and I can put them into any of the projects. And secondly, I think where you said that organizations who are putting them into summer projects and they are students are joining or any of the compensation whatever they're getting, because ultimately somebody is giving the opportunity, let me join the firm,
Correct.
let me look at a compensation later. I think for them it may be fair, but so we can't do as a bank or as an organization, we are not able to, we can't do that. This is absolutely against the integrity of the organization here. So I think there are certain organizations they are still re-looking at the database. I believe I think one or two organizations they come up, not really NGOs, but I think again sponsored by some of the IIT and IIM. So they are collecting our data, making a huge database to send across to the few corporates that this is a data pool of the talent we have available with respect to these top campuses. Do you really want to look at that? If you have a budget, you have a headcount, can you hire them? But I'm afraid I think most of companies they are frozen on the headcount, so they may not have chance to hire the top talent even now.
Okay. Okay. That's good to hear. Fantastic. So maybe I'll move to Geetanjali, right? So Geeta, I think being, it's a favorite question of mine is because we are a Shenzyn, a diversity company and all this stuff, right? So is that still diversity is a big line item now and post COVID, because a lot of stress around it? The diversity used to be a kind of good to have a game at least about 5, 6 months and a year back. COVID is that kind of a change mind of people, or it's diversity is still a important piece for everybody?
I think diversity is still an important piece for most of the organizations because it truly adds to the commitment towards ensuring that we get the competitive advantage and also good for the social causes as well. So that benefit is completely undeniable. It's not something that we will put back. And, so it's furthermore important at this point of time, but I would say when it comes to the PWD hiring per se, yes, I think there are a lot of extra efforts that the recruitment team would have to put in order to ensure that we get the required amount of support, because everything is virtual. When it's virtual, it further makes the conversations more difficult to happen. Like in some cases, we need the interpreters to be available, etc. So those conversations, yes, there would be definitely the smarter ways of hiring that we have to look into, but the objective still stands close to the organizations. Yeah.
Krishma, you touched upon the diversity piece of it, right? So you guys are doing a lot of that. So is that same? I wanted to hear from all six of you. Is that diversity still an important piece for your career for next 12 months?
Absolutely. There's no denial to that. Only piece which we kind of implement here, and it might not be my statement might not be an HSBC generalized statement, but at least for AMG Bangalore, the amount of hiring which we have been doing, we kind of bring in the diversity flavor while we source the resumes. So we kind of try to make our recruitment heads saying that bring in 50-50 of the lot, right? But hiring or selection happens on merit.
Yep.
So we don't really take let this diversity piece come in there, because it's not fair to the other section in terms of picking people and then making that as a star mark on their career, right? That they were taken because of that, and it's not fair. So diversity is a question. We rather, when we actually create our headcount slides to showcase that organization and all, diversity is an important metric. But yeah, I mean, execution wise, we do take care that compromises are not made.
Okay.
Maybe Murli, I'll just add here, so maybe just one point. I think we have a typical Indian mindset, right? And we always look for diversity only as a gender diversity. But I think we need to work as a TA leader. We need to work much beyond that. So definitely we will have a gender diversity. We can have veterans on the business, so who can join us from different campuses and different experienced people. We have that, because a lot of experienced professionals who are working in the industry, they are very much available. They explore the opportunities as well, right?
Yep.
Two, secondly, inclusion is another one, not only diversity. And a fourth one, so which I'm also looking at sometime is, just from campus perspective, so when we hire people from the campuses, right, how much diverse pool we have from north, south, east, west, from all four different regions, right? So selection of campus is equally important for me when we are putting a diversity to the organization here. Last but not the least, I think from business side, what is the talent pool you have at the entry level, at the mid level, at the senior and leadership level? How the diverse talent pool, diverse mindset you have on the business, that's also equally important. So when we show the different stats of the diversity, I think business and leadership will be convinced. But if we only go with the gender diversity, that I think Krishma rightly said, it's not that we can keep a special tag for gender diversity and bring them in. I think that's not the way to work anyway.
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot also. Param, your points are valid, but it's changed a lot in India as well. I think nobody's now looking at diversity as just gender diversity, but the sheer percentage of diversity talent is gender, so that people tend to move towards that. But otherwise, I think every company is now understanding it, and I'm seeing firms which has actually created their infrastructure according to the especially able people, LGBT and veterans and everything. I think it's definitely moved a lot, at least last 2-3 years. And but I agree with you. I think there is a lot more to move. Any other points on the diversity front, Sudhir or Rama?
Yeah, I want to quickly talk about. First of all, I'm based in Minneapolis, which has been sort of the epicenter of the George Floyd killing and everything that's happening. And I myself, having been of Indian descent and a person of color in the US, I can tell you the last few weeks after the civic unrest have changed the way the companies have come forward with what they think is important. I mean, inclusion, diversity, let's face it, it's been a poster child for a long time, and we can have different colors on that poster. But what's different now, it's almost like a tipping point in some ways, because of what's just happened, is it's turned the lights on an issue which is sort of been, it's nice to have to have. So it's become heart and center of a lot of things. The other piece I want to talk about is I've worked in India, I worked in Asia, but the last I would say about 4 or 5 years now that I've been in the US, I'm learning every single day what diversity means. And I'm not kidding when I tell you things that I have overlooked. As an example, I'll give you an example. Recently, there was something called a courageous conversation that we had, which was actually talking about this whole topic of Black Lives Matter. And there were employees who talked about all lives matter. Why should just Black Lives matter? So there were folks who were talking about why shouldn't we say all lives matter. And so things are almost at a burning point and tipping point in many ways. And one of the first things that I learned was when you talk about the whole African diaspora as African Americans, it is wrong, because there are many people who are here, as an example, from Jamaica or Barbados or Ghana. They don't consider themselves African American. They consider themselves part of the African diaspora. So you have to call them Black. So I'm constantly learning, because these are uncomfortable things that one doesn't talk about, and that includes women of color at work. It is about Asians. It's about stereotypes, and therefore, actually, inclusion and diversity has become far more important than ever, if you ask me. And companies are now, and I think the big one is the feedback from the employees is enough of the talk, let's now do some action. So there are very strong measurable goals that the companies have set for themselves, not just in terms of we will have 5 town halls or 10 connect points, but actually measurable ways in which they will promote inclusion and diversity. And that's just not gender diversity here, obviously, but many layers of it.
Fantastic. Okay. So there are a few questions from the audience. I think, unless any, Sudhir or anyone want to talk about diversity, I'll try to quickly move towards the questions actually the audience started asking.
So I'll take a minute. I think the important element what Rama touched upon is that even in the US economy, which has been, if you look at India, it is far ahead in all the aspects. Even at that economy or in that country, they still have these kind of challenges. I think the diversity we have been talking for a long time. My take on the diversity is that don't break it into whether you're a gender, you're an LGBT, you're a retired, you're a differently able people. I think create an ecosystem in your organization, no matter what and who you are hiring. If you have a great ecosystem, everybody will come and flourish. Your ecosystem will kill people. A woman leaves and that's what I've seen across all the banks is that uh, maybe after 5 or 7 years, the woman takes a break and into the banking. They don't want to continue. They want to take a break, want to go into marriage, family, and all those things because it gets so stressful. Are we giving them the environment that they can really do well, along with managing the family and along with managing their career and the kids? I think as an organization, we need to think on those lines rather than looking at whether we are bringing in more women or more differently able people into the organization. When you have a great ecosystem, I think everything and everybody will flourish automatically.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's a valid point, Sudhir. So there is a question from Jay. His question was, has COVID fast-tracked the decision-making and reduced groupism? So who want to pick this question? I think it's a very strong question. I think it's a interesting one.
I think it has definitely fast-tracked decision-making because I'm going to take my own example. We used to have a ManCon every Monday. Now I'm having a ManCon every day. I don't have to wait for 7 days. So if Monday is gone, then I have to wait till next Monday for the management meeting. Today I'm meeting every day 9:30 in the morning, and we're discussing various things, and we are really trashing out things which would have taken at least a couple of years to do that in the last 3 months. So I think yes, it has helped in decision making, which has really helped faster decision making. Now I don't know how effective those decisions would be in the long run, but yes, the decisions are at least being made.
And
Just to add here, so I think that again depends what enables you to do efficiently working and being more productive in the organization. I can relate to where so most of the organizations have come up with a a one-time settlement allowance kind of a policy where almost all the organizations have announced some funds, which enables to each and every employee to work from home maybe $100 or $500. And I think in the recent time I heard like they almost a 50 employee, they can use maybe bring a table, chair, laptop, whatever you need, you can bring it at home. So that those kind of policies which was never been thought of even, I think that has been bring in a place and has been approved very fastly. I think those are things which works very well. But I just want to tie up the point, like whatever makes an employee work from home, which is making them more productive. I think those decisions are coming much faster.
Yeah, I think he's also touched upon a point called, is it reduced groupisms? So do you guys see that? Because there is no coffee discussions and there is no sutta breaks and all this stuff. So do you guys see anything, JD or anybody else?
So Murli, yeah, it is reduced groupism, but it is also encouraged, the smaller groups to get together, right? I'll give my own example, right? There are tribes which never spoke in the offices, but now the two tribes or the two or three people get together and then talk every day in the morning. The large amount of groupism is reduced, but the smaller amount of small group has emerged out of the COVID, I would say.
Okay.
I would actually add to that point that you just said, Jaideep. It's actually something that companies should watch out for, because it's actually eroding inclusion. So we've been talking about diversity, but one of the things that we are starting to notice is people are going to what I call the shortcuts. So if I know someone really well and I know that person can do a good job because he or she completely understands my style and how I want things done, I just go to that default, right? And I'm not making sure that I'm including everybody's perspective. That's increasingly happening in the COVID environment. So while yes, decisions are faster on daily touch points at the leadership levels, etc. Down below, what's happening is a little bit of this erosion of inclusion that we are starting to see, which is something that we are gathering through these pulse surveys that we are doing now pretty much every 2 weeks. So we are sort of getting very good real-time inputs on, hey, if this is happening and there is no real water cooler chat or the chit chats that we have, but there are virtual water cooler moments that are happening where people are creating these and inadvertent. Some of these are inadvertent, but they are happening. So that's something that companies have to watch out for.
I think I agree your point, Rama. So I kind of, when I'm talking to friends of us, so the lot of surveys are getting actually kind of delivered to gather little more information about what employees are feeling. So accordingly, companies are taking relevant actions around it and all stuff. So the second, very interesting question, right? How the employer-employee relationships are changing in the COVID and post-COVID time going to be. Things like loyalty earlier, and a collaboration, how it is happening. So, post-COVID, is that loyalty as a word is going to change a lot? Any thoughts? Maybe Krishma, you want to pick this up?
Depends, so loyalty is a very abused term, Murli. I mean, when we talk about leaders who are closer to the teams, who basically build a trust factor, and the employees, when they believe their leaders and think that the leaders are kind of looking for their interest, they are not really having a hidden agenda, then I don't think COVID and non-COVID situation is actually impacting there, because that's a stronger kind of relationship with an employer and employee. Or you might not call it as an employer, because I as a leader also I'm an employee. I mean, unless we actually understand that fact, it sort of works well. But yeah, I mean, from a if we compare the COVID, pre-COVID and post-COVID kind of situation here, so I think it has kind of made leaders sort of see this, that earlier, while being human, they were closer to lesser number of people, because while you walk around the floor, you will as humans, you will kind of have a better connect with certain people and certain not. But here leaders are trying to kind of follow a format. So if they are having one-on-one calls with 7 of their team members, they'll make sure that they don't have it with 2 only. They will kind of have it with all 7. So in a way that has maybe encouraged leaders to have a kind of common platform with everybody. But loyalty is a bigger question, which is I don't think COVID situation is going to impact that.
Is that mostly related to how the employer or a company is handling the employees at this point of time makes a lot of difference, right? So I'll give you a
Exactly.
little bit of an example. When we're doing our Wharton program about a year back, I've asked the professor saying that, earlier days when an employee works for 10 years, he's really, kind of given an importance in the organizations in India at least, or even globally. But now employees working for 3-4 years is also called as loyal employee. So where is that broke, right? And then interestingly, he mentioned to me that it's actually, broken by the employer in, 2008, 2009 recession, which happened. The employers were ruthless for a business reasons. And then that's exactly where the loyalty as a game is kind of changed. And then employees also started behaving like a business. So again, it's a professor told us. I thought I'll just share here, right? So yeah, any more points on the loyalty part of it? I think yeah.
I'm gonna add to this. So first of all, I think we are equating retention with loyalty, and I'm not sure if that's the right way I would sort of put it. One of the things I would say is, and this is something that is true of everybody and every company, and that is you will have people work so long as they can learn, they can make their resume marketable, they will be with you. Therefore, it's important that the quality of work, the outcomes they produce are meaningful. Even if they are not meaningful, assuming they are doing an extremely low-end operational job, if they are getting other value add out of that, either it could be some sort of a higher education program or something that you invest in them, that will make them sticky. So it's, and I have heard this from someone long time back, which is, it is not lifetime of employment, but lifetime of employability that will keep people in a company. So if I know that I'm getting exposure into newer areas, newer skills, we talked about a lot of upcoming skills. So if you do some sort of an upskill or reskill of your employees, knowing that some of the skills that they have today may not exist in the next 18 months, 24 months, and you give them those opportunities, there will definitely be a better stickiness. Of course, it also depends on the overall culture, etc. But this is a given. If you do not provide those opportunities and you have in general been keeping them very stagnant, you will not have that stickiness. It will be very hard. And while on the face of it, it may seem counterproductive, and especially in India, because it's a growing economy and it continues to grow, it is going to be hard to retain people. And it does at some point plateau, like some 7-8 years back when you were hiring people with Java skills, they were premium talent. Now you don't consider them premium anymore, right? So there is always a cycle for every skill that comes up and goes down. And what really stays is the ability of the people to learn and relearn. So in my mind, that is the one that causes the stickiness.
And if I can just add, Murli, so even from campus perspective, so I think wherever I worked, even in past, right? So whenever my leadership team says, so I need to hire the top talent from top engineering campuses, maybe IIT, NITs, or so bits right? And whenever I do the lateral hiring, and they always look very first thing whenever they talk about the top talent is who's passed out from the top campuses. So my first question to each and every leader whenever they ask, there is such ask, right? Do we have that kind of a challenging work which can engage them at least for next couple of years? And what is the career progression of that person even after 3 years if this person stays back with us? And now when we are talking about the kids who are very impatient. They don't have patient to listen or to stay back even a day when you see that somebody is not giving you a right work. They may feel that okay, let's move on, right? So even from the campus perspective, when we collect a demand from our businesses, the same simple ask like do the work, we can engage them for next couple of years. If no, then I think there's no point to hire a talent all the time from top engineering campuses, but rather hire a talent from good colleges, develop them, make them best for the organization as well.
Correct.
But I think there's another aspect as well. I think somewhere we are also culprit as a recruiter, right? So I know when I was doing hands-on recruiting, somebody I feel that have a good college, have a good technical skills as well, and in LinkedIn, I think even the somebody have changed the job just a year back, but still I touch with the person, try to sell what I have that, right? So somewhere I think we also played a role, right? So where we made them dishonest with their own respective organization. Even somebody is not looking to change, but I'll push them to make a change.
Correct. I agree with you. So there's one more interesting question, right? So before earlier when we're doing a normal onboarding and all this stuff, when we hire freshers, there is a kind of a training plans created for about a month, 2 months, 3 months. Large organizations used to have 6 months plan. Now it's moved to virtual onboarding, to virtual training, right? Somebody's asking questions. Dipansh Goyal asked, actually saying that is that effectiveness is still taken care, and if yes, how? Right? Maybe Sudhir or Geetanjali or Reddy. Anybody want to pick? Sudhir, you want to pick up?
So Murli, I was on a call with my L&D head before I got on this call, because we were onboarding these 200 management trainees starting 20th, and they will be on a 2-week onboarding session program.
Okay.
So we were discussing and contemplating that how much can an individual concentrate in a Zoom or kind of onboarding situation which is virtual. So we agreed that not more than 3 hours. So I think that should be good enough. And then remaining 2 or 3 years, we want to give it back to them so that they can think through, they can look at, they can introspect, they can come back with some ideas and suggestions, what we spoke about in the today's training session, so that it becomes more meaningful in the long run. Otherwise, we just keep delivering it for the 9 hours or 8 hours in a day on the Zoom. I think so it's going to be not that interesting and engaging also. So we are looking at where not more than 3 hours, where we will want them to be in the training program. The remaining 4 hours, we want them to go back wherever they are to the drawing board and work on some of the things which we want them to really do when they were sitting in the classroom.
But the effectiveness is taken care and all. Is there any specific measures?
So we are doing it for the first time only. So we don't even know how much effective it is going to be. It is going to be. Obviously, it will have some challenges, but I think we are doing this onboarding for my regular, which is my lateral joiners, for last 4 weeks. But that's only for a day, and I think which is pretty coming out to be pretty effective. So I don't think so candidates are having any concern, or they are not able to really concentrate, or they're feeling fatigue or lethargic and all those things. So and that's what we are working in, that by 2021 or 22, most of the training program should be virtual, and we should do away with this classroom training. It's a huge investment in maintaining those infrastructure, where we want people to come to those rooms. I think somewhere or the other we have to stop the traditional way, or the way we have been operating.
Correct. I think
And
that's
Murli, just to touch upon your measurement, how we can measure that, I think recruiting can play a very good role there, where you can have the frequent interventions, having those connects with all the maybe interns or the full-time grads, which will help us as an organization to know, are we on the right track or no? Are the interns, the grads are learning the right path or no? Are they meeting the, expectations or no? If somewhere they may have a challenge with the technology, challenge with the manager, challenge with the infrastructure, they can raise that to right people, which is recruiting team, if we will have those connects. If we will not have that, obviously we'll never get to know that. If I can just give you one, maybe just input here, so I just finished my virtual, internship for, I think, 100 plus grads we have that in India. And we had 98% success ratio there. We have done the survey at end of the internship on the last day, in fact, so that they should not feel that may impact on their, day-to-day exercise with the manager and all that. So on the last day, we had that survey, which includes the line manager, includes a day one interaction, including the recruiting team. Everybody was captured well in that particular survey. I think survey had around 20 questions. So overall, we received 98% results, which is very good for the organization.
Fantastic. So I think we are kind of 4 minutes away. I think I just wanted to take this time to thank you, all of you. And it's a wonderful discussion. I think we touched upon almost like every aspect of it, not especially on the banking, but otherwise, I think there are a lot of topics we touched upon. Fantastic. Thank you very much to each of you. Thank you all. Anything
Thank you,
you
Murli.
want to say before we
Thank you,
end?
Murli.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.